February 13th, 1862, Union troops under U.S. Grant, including naval support commanded by Andrew Foote, attacked the Confederate-built Fort Donelson, Tennessee on the Cumberland River, a.k.a. the Shawnee River. So that's exciting. U.S. Grant is going to win like a couple of these. He's going to take Vicksburg, he's going to take Fort Donelson, and then he's going to take Appomattox. He's going to take the whole goddamn thing. So if you're ever a general and the United States breaks out into war and you're a general, you don't go straight for the main principal army. You take over a piece of the western corner. You know what I'm saying? Mary Todd Lincoln had at times to manage with meager resources. She did her own and the boys' sewing and sometimes did all the cooking for the family. When he was home, Abraham Lincoln milked the cow, curried the horse, chopped wood for the stove. There was no time to plant and grow flowers about the place. Even the garden the Lincolns tried one year was too much of a burden. Springfield store records tell a good deal about this family of Lincolns. Tradition has it that Mary Todd Lincoln was a shopper difficult to please. No kidding. And she frequently exchanged goods she had purchased. No kidding. I bought this. No, give me that. No, I bought that. You got to give me... The Lincolns had their share in the social life of Springfield. There were teas and dinners, even though Mrs. Lincoln sometimes had to make up for them by a scanty everyday table. The children as well as the grown-ups had their parties. On one special occasion, the Lincolns issued over 500 invitations to an entertainment, and more than 300 persons actually attended the gathering at the 8th Street residence. Letters of the period frequently mentioned Mr. Lincoln and Cousin Mary as being present at suppers, at political receptions, at charity socials. Mary's sister has left a picture of the Lincolns at this time. Mr. Lincoln enjoyed his home, and he and Mary idolized their children. So far as I could see, there was complete harmony and loving kindness between Mary and her husband, consideration for each other's wishes, and a taste for the same books. They seemed congenial in all things. It is a mistake, however, to think of this marriage as one of uninterrupted happiness and tranquility. The Lincolns had sharply contrasting personalities, and there was friction as in every home. Mary had difficulties with housemaids, icemen, storekeepers, and delivery boys, and her husband must have understood that her outbursts of temper were connected directly with the violent headaches of which she had complained for years. When there was trouble, Mary Todd Lincoln's temper sometimes got the better of her, and she would become momentarily irresponsible. There were many pressures beating on this woman, and she was not adapted either by temperament or by training to make a successful adjustment. Lincoln's law practice kept him on the circuit nearly half the year, leaving his wife with 2 or 3 small children anxiously worrying in Springfield. There's something pathetic in Mary Todd Lincoln's confidence to a neighbor. She always said that if her husband had stayed at home as he ought to, that she could love him better. And when Lincoln was at home, there were disagreements that sometimes became tempestuous. Mary Todd could never get used to seeing her husband stretched out on the floor of the parlor reading. And Lincoln could never break himself of the habit of answering the doorbell in his short sleeves or of using his own spoon in the sugar bowl. He was a man of long silences and brooding melancholy. She wanted lively talk, a gay company. There were disputes over the children, how they should be trained, and there was the constant problem of servants who were, for the most part, idle and inefficient, utterly unable to get along with the temperamental Mary Todd. After one particularly bad wrangle with a new servant girl, Mary Todd sighed, "Well, one thing is certain. If Mr. Lincoln should happen to die, his spirit will never find me living outside the boundaries of a slave state." Holy shit. She's a racist? Mary Todd's a fucking racist. When the strain became too great, Mrs. Lincoln would, as Herndon put it, get the devil in her and fly up in uncontrollable anger. At such times, Lincoln would first of all ignore her. Then, if she did not calm down, he would take one of the children and leave the house until her fury was spent. There are a number of stories about these rages of hers. Springfield gossips were to smack their lips over them for 50 years. One man recalled passing the Lincoln house one Sunday and seeing a woman chasing a man with a table knife or butcher knife in her hand. When they came to a group of Springfield worthies returning from church, Lincoln turned suddenly around, caught his wife by the shoulder with one hand, and with the other caught his wife at the heavy end, her hips, if you please, and quickly hustled her to the back door of his house and pushed her in at the same time, spanking her heavy end, saying, "There, Damn it. There, damn it. Now stay in the house and don't disgrace us before the eyes of the world. Abraham Lincoln spanked Mary Todd. Get in the house! God damn you. Once, so the story goes, Mary Todd blazed away with her sharp and sarcastic tongue. I'm only trying to save the American Union here. I'm only trying to fucking liberate not just the black man, but the white man. I'm just trying to liberate the world here. God damn. She's buying all these clothes, being a fucking hell on fucking a hellion. Once, as the story goes, she could have read, she could have articulated so many things. Mary blazed away with her sharp and sarcastic tongue at a man who called at the house on business. Mary Todd called him a dirty villain, a vile creature, and the like when he complained to Lincoln that unchivalrous gentleman is supposed to have said, "Friend, can't you endure this one wrong for old friendship's sake while I have had to bear it without complaint and without a murmur for, lo, these last 15 years? God damn, Lincoln. What a fucking hero. Lincoln isn't just a hero to, you know, black folks, white folks, Americans, the Union. Just look what kind of man look at the... Not all the temper rumor had it was on one side. I mean, Frederick Douglass had it bad, but did Lincoln have it worse? Not all the temper rumor had it was on one side. One day, Springfield citizens were shocked to see Mrs. Lincoln ejected forcibly from the Lincoln house. Her husband shouting, "You make the house intolerable, damn it. Get out of it." You make the house intolerable. He's even goddamn fucking... His diction, his charisma, his... I just... Get the fuck out! You make the house intolerable, damn you. Get out of it! One cannot ignore or dismiss such incidents at the same time and not to be remembered that such disturbances were not the usual thing in the Lincoln home. In every marriage there are tensions and stresses. In many marriages the partners may lose their tempers. Furthermore, such stories are of the kind likely to be exaggerated and repeated with endless variations. Most such anecdotes come from unreliable sources and were recorded long after the event. Mary Todd, losing control of herself at times, is admitted. Against this should be set the facts that she was a faithful and loving wife. She was capable of indulgent mother. She managed a growing household with commendable economy. She performed graciously her duties as wife of a leading politician and lawyer. If storms occasionally struck the Lincoln house with unusual violence, disaster was avoided by the spirit of tender love and deep understanding which united the couple around their home and children. James Gorley, who lived next door to the Lincolns for 19 years, gave a pretty fair verdict. Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln were good neighbors. The history of Mary Lincoln and the White House is another story too long and too painful to be related here. Subject to the pitiless searchlight of unfavorable publicity, engulfed in the tidal wave of hate engendered by the war, bruised by the terrific responsibility of her position, and desolated by intolerable grief, first over the death of a dearly loved son, and then over the assassination of a husband more than life to her, her mind gave way in her last tragic years in that ceaseless seeking for peace, which sent her searching over 2 continents, finally to seal herself in a shuttered, candle-lit room in Springfield. Her mind must often have wandered back to the days of her marriage, to the birth of her children, to home and husband. She counted over her hours of past happiness like a rosary. Endlessly she fingered the gold wedding ring inscribed, "Love is eternal." And as her wretchedly aching brain relived the past, she could clearly remember 2 things. She was Mrs. Abraham Lincoln, and she had made her husband a home. Abraham Lincoln, politician, chapter 4, page 57, coming up.